This one is the light touch framework for the provision of supported accommodation and semi-independent accommodation for young people. This is a framework that is worth 300 million, especially if you're a provider in London and is going to be closing soon. Not every tender is ideal for your business. Market engagement events help you to influence the council. Now, this one is going to be run specifically by EALING. However, it would also include 32 London boroughs, which make up the West London Alliance. So these are boroughs such as EALING, as I've already mentioned, London Borough of Brent, Barnet, Hillingdon, Harrow, the list goes on. This is important to note because if you can provide services, like I said, of supported accommodation or semi-independent accommodation, especially if you can do so within any of these boroughs, you need to be on this framework, because this framework is going to be open again for another 4 years, or at least the one within or this region, meaning the West London Alliance, which make up the 32 London boroughs, are going to be procuring on this framework for the next 4 years. So make sure you bid for this opportunity if you meet the criteria, which we're going to go through in this video. Now, on this opportunity, it's important to know it's been split into 2 lots. But there are 32 London boroughs that are going to be acquiring services or providers from this framework. So it's very important, if you can already do provide service, like I keep saying, on this framework, that you bid for the opportunity. However, you do need to understand what to bid for and if you are eligible for this opportunity, so you know if your bid is going to be a winning bid. Now, the bid is split into 2 lots, like I said. Lot 1 is specifically focusing on the provision of supported accommodation for 16 to 17-year-olds. And then you'll also have the opportunity to bid for Lot 2 that focuses on semi-independent supported accommodation for 18-year-olds up to potentially 25. So if you can provide the services, and you specifically can provide services for those age groups based on the lot, then ensure you go through the criteria for each of the lots so you know exactly what you can win as well. Right, so the first thing we're going to start with is the regulatory licenses. So right off the bat, this will be an instant pass or fail if you have, or if your agency has that license with the relevant regulatory body. So on this one now, for lot 1, as some of you may already have guessed, because you're providing services for supported accommodation services for 16 and 17-year-olds, you will need to have an Ofsted license. So if you're bidding for lot 1, make sure your agency already has the Ofsted license. However, in lot 2, this is unregulated because you're providing semi-independent accommodation services, and it's going to be for adults from the age of 18 onwards. Then if we then go to the regulatory rating requirements, because typically they might need you to have rating as well. In lot 1, because that's where you need to have the Ofsted license, you will need to have an Ofsted outcome rating of consistently strong or inconsistent quality required. So by the way, I'm reading directly off the bid suite criteria, which breaks down and summarizes exactly what the criteria is from a high level, so you understand if you should bid for the opportunity from a business perspective, financial perspective, but also at a base level, what the criteria is based on the regulatory requirements, technical requirements, etc., which we're going through today. So the link is in the description. Click the link, you can see the criteria yourself. You can also download the tender files yourself because it will contain a lot more information. And you can also see exactly where the bid submission portal is, so you obviously know where to submit your bid should you decide to bid. Now, in terms of the rating, we've covered that. However, you should also understand the rates, which is the pricing rates that the council here are going to be offering. Bear in mind that there will be a ceiling rate and a baseline rate, which will be determined in the files as well. So make sure you check the files, because you still need to do your own due diligence anyway. But within those rates, please understand that they will also expect you to deliver at least 2 hours of support within the weekly rates they're giving you per bed. Then you can then determine your own rates, which you're going to charge for any additional hours of support you're providing for the young person. In terms of technical ability requirements, now at a minimum, especially if you're bidding for lot 1 and lot 2 or any of the lots, just understand that your service manager here needs to have at least 2 years experience working with young people. So this should ideally be the standard for yourself anyway. So even if you're providing the service for lot 2, which is unregulated, you should still have experience and experienced staff, resources, capabilities working with young people. So Don't just expect to win or get on the framework with absolutely no experience, or maybe you're just a provider of housing or you're a provider of support, but you're not a provider of supported accommodation or semi-independent supported accommodation. So these are two very distinct and different services. So make sure you can evidence your capability, your resources, your certifications, your training, your skills in your bid as well. But one key thing is that your service manager needs to have at least 2 years experience working with young people. Now, you will need to ensure that you have operational properties in order to bid. This is very clear. However, just understand that especially within lots 2, you may also get packages or referrals to look after young people or to support young people who already have an accommodation or the provision of accommodation for them. So there is also the potential that on this framework, you don't necessarily always have to have a vacancy or a vacant unit or a vacant bed or vacant property to continue being on the framework or to continue benefiting from the framework. Then going on to the other certifications as well. So as is very common and it's very typical, because you're providing service for vulnerable people and young people, you need to ensure that all your staff have up-to-date DBS as well. So DBS checks and enhanced DBS checks for the relevant lots and service you're going to be delivering. As well as that, the service managers need to have a level 3 safeguarding qualification and level 3 leadership and management. So level 3 qualification in leadership and management as well. Going on from that, we then have the economical and financial standard requirements. Again, this is also very common, because if you are going to bid for a framework, especially a framework of this nature, you need to demonstrate that your business or your agency is financially healthy. So a financially stable agency that is financially sustainable as well. So the way to do this is very commonly you will need to adhere to the requirements here. So one of the requirements is to provide at least 2 years accounts. If you can't do that, there are other alternatives that are going to be in the tender files too. But long story short, if you have the criteria or you can meet the criteria, make sure you bid for this opportunity, especially if you provide the services. Thank you for listening. Make sure you share and you're subscribed if you want more like this.